Now what we want to do is send you up to Columbia, South Carolina. That's where South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster is addressing reopening the state's economy as well. Let's get you right now to Columbia.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. The purpose of these press conferences is to let people know what we're doing, what we're thinking, and why we're doing it. And so we welcome you all here again today for your presence and your questions. You may have noticed that the people of South Carolina are complying very well with the orders that have come out and the recommendations that have been issued as well from us and from the CDC and other places. So in light of that, in light of the common sense being shown by the great people of South Carolina, we are ready to take some steps that will help South Carolina assure that our economic health is as strong as our public health. On March the 30th, I issued an order that closed access to the beaches along our state. Since that time, I have spoken to all of the mayors that are along the coast, or most of the mayors, if not all of them. And today I am canceling that order effective as of noon tomorrow for those beaches, and taking the power of that order off of those governments so that the decision making returns to those governments in those beaches, those places, to make their own decisions as they did before I issued that order. So we're turning that back over to the mayors and the councils to make their own decision, and that includes the public access, that is the government-owned access to those beaches, as well as to the piers, the docks, the wharfs, or the ramps in those locations. Also, another part of the executive order I'm issuing today, on April the 3rd, I restricted some retail businesses to pickup and delivery only. We closed them for other operations, but encourage them to continue with the pickup and delivery subject to social distancing. And you know this included furniture stores, shoe stores, department stores, music stores, sporting goods stores, craft, flea markets, and florists. As of 5 o'clock today, I am canceling that order, but I also remind those merchants and those customers that the order concerning social distancing is still in place, and they must still do that. And in addition, the restrictions that we had announced earlier on the big box stores and the home supply stores will be in effect on these other retail businesses, and that consists of two rules. One, either 20% of your occupancy, your regular posted occupancy, you can go that high, or 5 customers for every 1,000 square feet in the establishment, whichever is the lesser. So that way, the big box stores and the small retailers as well that had been restricted are restricted now only in that fashion. And back to the beaches for a moment, still in effect is the rule, because this is a state of a declaration of emergency. The rule of law enforcement to dispel groups of 3 or more that are causing a threat to the public health is still in effect anywhere in the state, and of course that includes the beaches. The decision on schools we have not made yet. That will be made in consultation with Superintendent Molly Spearman and the school officials, and we're studying the data, the science, the information that we have, and we'll be making that decision before long. But I urge everyone to remember, we are still in a very serious situation. We know that this disease, this virus, spreads easily, and we know it is deadly, particularly to a lot of our people who are older or have weakening diseases that have weakened or suppressed their immune system. So we must be sure that we continue to be strict and disciplined with our social discipline and taking care not to infect others. Our measured, deliberate approach has been the right one, we believe. Our goal was to cause the most damage possible to the virus while doing the least possible damage, at least permanent damage, to our businesses. South Carolina's business is business. We must, when this began, we were outrunning the competition in many of our races with the competition. We want to be able to continue to do that when this virus is gone and as we're pulling out of it. So what I am doing is we want to be able, if you can imagine a race, we want to be able to slingshot around the competition and get back up to full speed as soon as we can. And to that end, I have created a organization called Accelerate South Carolina. We must be ready to stomp on the gas when the green flag, when the green light comes up. We have to be able to accelerate as fast as we can and as safely as we can with the health of the people when that green light goes on. So to do that, we have Accelerate SC. This will be an organization that will last for about 30 days. There will be a number of meetings, and we'll supply you with the list of the people that have agreed to serve. It's a volunteer organization. We'll have several meetings. They will be managed and coordinated by Mr. James Burns, an attorney with Nelson Mullins Law Firm here in Columbia. And our first meeting will likely be at the University of South Carolina Alumni Building. So this Accelerate SC has 29 participants, and it includes.
And there you have the latest update from South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster. In summation, Governor McMaster has reversed restrictions on some businesses that he ordered 2 weeks ago. That's going to allow some retail shopping to reopen as state public health officials continue to fight the coronavirus. Under the governor's new order, department stores can reopen along with other retail businesses deemed non-essential, such as sporting goods stores, music stores, shoe and craft stores, floral shops. Again, still, those businesses are going to be required to still understand and keep up with those occupancy restrictions that have been ordered. Again, 5 customers per 1,000 square feet or 20% of posted occupancy limits. Again,